Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another installment of the House of Common show. This is not exactly season 1, nor is it season 2. This is a bonus edition of our show. We're so glad to be back with you. We have missed you, our House of Common family. We are so glad to be back. Whether you are watching us on YouTube or Instagram or you're listening to us on podcast, it is so great to be back with you. Don't worry, we are retooling and getting ready for season 2 so we can have more hot takes for you. But in the meantime, you can look back on the archival footage of our show from season 1 on YouTube. How you do that, you search the word House of Common Show. Or you can find us on podcast by searching the words House of Common Show on either Apple Podcasts or on Spotify. In the meantime, it's important to let you know that a couple of us, because it's a bonus episode, could not be here with us. So we are missing O'Shea. We are missing Adam, who, if you did not know this before, plays basketball.
Oh, right. Basketball.
Yeah. Basketball. He was actually really close to being in the bubble with the Raptors, but then, new baby, things like that, he wasn't able to make it. But he played basketball. And Tim Sills can be with us as well. But they send their regards. They miss you like we've missed you. But we're going to carry on. Because it's a bonus show, we're going to carry on with just the 6 of us. Steffan is in and out due to some Wi-Fi issues. But don't worry, we'll figure out a way to get his hot takes to you as well. Gentlemen, it has been a minute since we've done one of these things. It's good to see your faces. We've been able to hang out once or twice and different things like that. Looking forward to figuring out how we can be in the same room together for season 2. But we are back in our homes. Calvin is in Ontario once again. Shout out to the man them. Rah, rah, rah. So glad to have him back home. Boys, there's been so much that's happened over the summer that we will recap at some point in season 2. But the last week and change has been really, really, really crazy in our world. And so that's what we thought we need to come back and actually have a bonus episode for, because so much stuff has happened. And so we're going to talk about 3 topics today on the House of Common show. First one we're going to talk about is Jacob Blake and Kyle Rittenhouse. We're going to talk about the duality of difficulty there. Then we're going to talk about the NBA strike. And then lastly, we're going to just pontificate and talk about the greatness that is of the late, great Chadwick Boseman, who passed away on Friday night at the time of this recording. But let's start first with Jacob Blake and Kyle Rittenhouse. Gentlemen, we have taken up a lot of people's time, a lot of viewership and readership on social media, talking about Ahmaud Arbery this past May. And then literally later on that month, George Floyd, which then brought up discussions about what it meant to defund the police. Should people fear black men? All these sort of conversations that we had that were questions that were brought to us. Something that we also know is that racism is still alive. It didn't go away because of our show or any other show. We know that there are opinions. Opinions did not get won over because of our show or any other show. All these things are still happening. And so it brings us to what took place with Jacob Blake. Here's what we know. We know that there was a domestic disturbance call made that included Jacob Blake in that call in terms of his involvement in it. Police show up to his to where he is, where it seems like he is trying to break up a fight between 2 people, even though he himself is involved. Long story short, in the midst of a tussle and being tased, Jacob Blake goes back to his car. Unbeknownst to the police officers who are chasing after him, his 3 boys are in the car, and while he is going towards his car, he is shot 7 times in the back. We later learned from the Department of Justice that there was a knife in the car that he admitted to having in the car. What we do not know at this point of the recording, what we do not know is whether or not he was going to grab the knife to cause harm to anybody. We do not know that. That could change by the time we drop this video or later on, but we just want to say right now, at this point, we are not sure. Ultimately, what ended up happening is while he's going towards his car, he is shot 7 times in the back in front of neighbors and in front of his children. A few short days later, a young man by the name of Kyle Rittenhouse is in the same town where there has been rioting and looting, and while he is there under the under the guise of helping to defend stores and properties that were being attacked and being looted, Kyle, a 17-year-old with an illegal firearm. I'm not saying anything that's exaggerated. I'm saying everything that has been placed in the news that you are able to see, whether or not your news is left wing or right wing or dark wing, whatever it is, like all this sort of stuff. That's what you have in front of you.
Dangerous.
He ultimately, Kyle ultimately, whether it was seen as self-defense or manslaughter, shot and killed 2 people while shooting a third, causing the amputation of an arm. And what we've seen in the midst of this is the discussion go right back again to police brutality, police injustice versus the idea of white privilege. Why is it that Jacob Blake, who was unarmed at the time of being arrested, can be shot 7 times, while Kyle Rittenhouse can shoot and kill 2 people, shoot a third, and walk through a whole entire grouping of police officers and not be arrested? He only was arrested when he turned himself in his home state of Illinois. I forgot to mention that he's crossed state lines with an illegal firearm, that whole thing. So, gentlemen, you've been on Facebook. I have made the decision over the summertime to avoid Facebook so that I can maintain my youthful glow. But some of you guys have been on Facebook. Others of you have been on social media and have different conversations. What are the conversations that you're hearing as it pertains to this circumstance, which is similar to Ahmaud Arbery, which is similar to Breonna Taylor? Please arrest the cops that murdered Breonna Taylor.
Right now.
Say her name, protect black women. And we saw what happened to George Floyd. This one is unique and it's different, and then it has this other one juxtaposed against it, the Kyle Rittenhouse killings, while he is now in jail, and also having GoFundMe accounts made for him for his legal defense. What are the things that you have seen that are different in this scenario that were different than the ones before, and what are the conversations that are happening out there among the people that you do life with? Anyway, jump right in.
Yeah, I selected to go first purposely, and I'll answer that question too, Chase. I don't go on Facebook a lot, but I have seen stuff and on Twitter where people are immediately placing a certain burden on Jacob's life, that's saying that, well, if you do bad things, you're going to get bad things done to you, type of thing, and kind of justifying those types of actions. And you don't really see, people talking as blatantly about I forget his name, Kyle. What's his other kid's name? Kyle
Rittenhouse.
Kyle gets more of a, well, look at this person who's trying to do the right thing, right idea, and he got threatened, and then he had to do what he had to do. I want to first say, as a black person on a black show, that the police are allowed to be called to a situation. You are allowed to be involved in that interaction with a police officer. If the police are allowed to try to detain you if you are doing something wrong, and the police are allowed to forcefully detain you if you pose a threat to their lives, and that's why they have those weapons on them. There, I said it. Now, at the same time, you are not allowed, or it should not be, because it seems to be that you are allowed. It should not be that somebody who we do not even understand the threat that they might pose, it's circumstantial, it has not been proven yet, to be shot when they're not even facing you 7 times. Even if they are resisting arrest, which again, you resist arrest, they will forcefully detain you. Facts. But why were you so close if you are so scared? Why are you so close? And how come 7 times? And what people fail to talk about is the most eventful part. The most eventful part is the amount of time that he was shot. He shot to kill.
Yeah.
And what they do talk about is the status of Jacob's life. Well, he was implicated in the police call. well, you know this and you know that. Well, let's see if this actually is a good person or a bad person before we chime in into his defense. I believe that anybody, whether you are white, black, Asian, Hispanic, or anything else, should have the opportunity to be detained, forcefully without having their life at risk. And I think time and time again, we see that privilege slant in the way of people who don't look like us that are on this show. So that's the first part. The other part is also with Kyle. Kyle believes he's doing the right thing. And I hesitate bringing politics into a topic like this. But the notion or the idea for that also gets heavily flamed or fanned rather by the type of stuff that he listens to and watches. They say on both media outlets, on Fox News, on CNN, on CBC, on Global, on all that stuff, that his Facebook is riddled with Blue Lives Matter and lots of support for Trump. I think there is also a weight or a responsibility on government to help spread truth and not opinions. And I think what we're seeing now, to answer your question, Chase, I don't want to take too much time, is that people are playing opinions juxtaposed to facts. And the fact is, somebody who was doing may or not something wrong, who was also not listening to police orders, was shot 7 times. And that was 6 times too many, and 7 if you consider the fact that there were other alternatives that they could have chosen.
Mm.
Yeah, you make a good point in that we know that it's not permitted, but it seems to be permissible, right? That the shooting is with the intent to kill. And I mean, we would know from what we have learned in the conversations that we have had that's what you do. A wounded person is more dangerous than one who's not. And so in their training, effectively, they shoot to kill. Thank God he's still alive. When I heard it happened, I didn't want to watch it. I'm tired of seeing people being brutalized, and I'm tired of being desensitized to the ill of the world that we live in when it comes to violence, especially at the hands of those that are called to protect and serve. And you see the discrepancy, and I haven't chimed in any conversations. I have learned to not do that because I'm just trying to take care of my own peace. But I watch the comments, and it doesn't seem to be getting any better, as Chris said. And when somebody makes a post, it's no longer like 15 or 20 replies. It's like hundreds. The threads upon threads upon threads upon threads. Now,
Facts.
some of it is encouraging because you see that the information and the education that is out there is causing more people to become allies and to be defenders of those that look like us in these conversations. But it makes it just that much more divisive because then everyone's anteing up and saying the wildest things. To say that in these situations, one guy didn't do anything as much as we know, and another one blatantly did. But that he is justified because he's white and he's trying to defend property or whatever it is because they're okay with rioting, but the looting, stop that looting. And then another man in front of his children shot. And from what I see, he's been pretty cooperative. And the last that I heard, he's actually handcuffed on his hospital bed. That was the last update that I heard.
He's been taken off handcuffs now.
Okay, right, and that's kind of crazy to me that a paralyzed man, after going through what he had to go through to get to that spot, is still handcuffed and is still being criminalized. And I don't know all the details of that situation. I can't speak to it, but what I can speak to is the narrative that somehow, because a black man has a history or a propensity, that he deserves to get 7 bullets in the back, is just a further showing that our conditioning is so detrimental in terms of where we are wanting to go. Now, on July 4th in America, 598 people on an average of 3 people a day were being shot and killed by police. That's not black, that's not white, that's everybody. Full spectrum. 6 days ago, the 24th, 751 people. In a month and a half, that many more. That is wild. And at that point, there was only 12 days in the whole calendar that police had not killed somebody in that nation. It's unbelievable to me. And I think that the conversation, we've said all kinds of things, but I think the conversation needs to really, really, really be not about white or black anymore, but really, is this thing working? And are we okay with buying into the narratives that force us to the margins? It literally forces us on one side to the other side. And it's not working. It's not helpful. We see it's plain as day broken. And I'm frankly, I'm tired of having the conversation, but I know that we must be responsible to this cultural moment and all that it's providing for the world we live in.
Before I even say what I gotta say, first off, I just want to say arrest the killers of Breonna Taylor. Just putting that out there. Please arrest the killers of Breonna Taylor. Her life matters. And so, yeah. But in regards to this discussion regarding Jacob Blake and sorry, what's the other guy's name again?
Kyle Rittenhouse.
Kyle Rittenhouse. I'm not going to say a lot. The only thing I'm going to speak to is this. What sucks when you see what's taking place, it paints this picture as if, and I know you're speaking, Cal, about not having white or black and just seeing everybody as such. The reality is it obviously is not the case. And what worries me the most, it seems as though that it wouldn't. We keep hearing about that the fact that he may have been going in to get a knife, Jacob Blake. But we know Kyle actually has a gun and he's holding it as he's walking past police officers, which begs us to say, is it really the weapon that makes them seem as if they may do something negatively, or is it the color of their skin? And based on what we've been seeing, it seems as though the weapon itself is, for a lot of these police officers going into a situation, is what causes the fear, what pushes them to act out in the way that they act out. And I'm saying, again, I'm not going to say this across the board for all the police officers, but for a certain amount of police officers, for whatever reason, it's the color of the skin changes the perspective of the individuals as they're going into situations. Right. And so we've talked in the past about just the training that police go through, but more than anything, if we're going to speak to training, we haven't spoke to this. Maybe it's the idea of helping to push towards what you already said, Cal, of teaching these or training or ingraining or reconditioning these police officers not to go in a situation with black male 5'10", whatever, but just male 5'10". Because obviously what's adding to the narrative of them thinking in the way that they're thinking is the color of these individual skins.
That's a good thought.
Yeah, I remember growing up. So obviously I'm from the United States, so I got to speak on my country. And I remember growing up, I remember talking to family members and friends, and they said, okay, now you're a black man, so you have to watch out for police. And it didn't take me too long to start being involved with incidents and having some negative interactions with police. Now, being a black man myself who've never had an actual record, I've never been put in jail. You know, there has been a moment that, that police literally almost pulled their guns out of me and one of my friends coming from Bible study inside the States. So I learned something, and I learned that I've been taught this, and I read about it, being black in America, you're treated differently. Now, trust me, there are some amazing white people in America. I have 100%. Some great friends who are white. 100%. But the issue is the root of America has not changed. And it's always been difficult, always been challenging for black people. And we're talking about just what happened with Kyle Rittenhouse, how he's able to walk down the street with an AK-47, SWAT,
AR-15. Someone's going to get mad at you for saying AK-47. Right. It was an AR-15. In case someone's going to get in the... Actually, the gun that he used was... It was an AR-15.
It was a long gun, yeah.
It was a long gun.
A long gun.
It was a big gun.
Please stay out of our comments to let us know that we don't know about, it was an AR-15.
I don't know about guns.
Neither do I.
I have a little information.
But I mean,
after.
yeah, but he's going down the street with this army weapon, and the SWAT cars are just going by it. I mean, I've seen the footage on CNN, and what I see, that lets me know, okay, America has not changed when it comes to blacks. And that is the biggest issue. That is the biggest problem. But there is hope. I mean, for the first time, I'm starting to see many white people rise up. So a lot of people, we know about the civil rights movement that happened in the States in the 60s with Martin Luther King, but the whole change didn't necessarily happen. So even some white people were killed during some of the riots as well, or excuse me, some of the marches. So with all of that happening, this unity will change. But just like what we've talked about, the issues with the whole political mindset and people following the right now. I mean, and I see a country that is separating, and it is taking two sides. So, I mean, there definitely has to be change, and it's unfortunate. And our prayer is that eventually the America will change. It's just not America, but all over the world, that people will be seen necessarily black people will be seen by just their context instead of just our skin, which is something that we've never wanted to be just looked at by.
Yeah, I think the problem arises a little bit that, he's being first looked at as, okay, let's look at his criminal record. Before we look at it as a man, before we look at him as a human being that it was, brutally attacked, if we want to say it like that, we look at it as, okay, what has he done? Let's look at his history. And we want to place a kind of level on how much people can receive versus what they have done in their past. And the question is, listen, was it excessive force? And so I don't even know if anybody can really argue that, because it was excessive force. The man was shot at point blank range in the back. And even if you needed to shoot him, we have no idea. We have no idea what he was grabbing for. We have no idea. But shoot him 7 times? That's
and
a
no
little
body cameras.
exactly, with no body cameras.
They're taught to shoot to kill.
And they're taught to shoot to kill.
Yeah.
But 7 times, 2 or 3 times would have killed him. The one time would have knocked him down and taken him. Now we're hearing all these other stories that are coming out. Even yesterday, I heard this story of he had a knife and he actually put one of the cops in a headlock. Now, what I've been told by some police officers are that if you show force, they're allowed to show one level higher of force than what you've shown to them. So if that is the case, then you have 2 or 3 police officers at that point. If you have somebody in a headlock, then you are able then to take out your stick, your taser, whatever, knock them down.
And just not to interrupt you, Andrew, but in that argument, we saw the end of May a police officer lay his knee on the neck of a man. So sorry, I just wanted to mention that we've also seen exactly. Anyhow, yeah. Sorry, Andrew. I just wanted to put that in there.
But that's exactly my point, right? So you get to that point where you show one level of more force. Even if you put the guy in a headlock, okay, that means I'm allowed to then tackle you to the ground. Mm-hmm. I don't need to follow you to your car and shoot you 7 times in the back. So no one, I don't think anybody can really argue that there was not excessive force there. And I think that's where we're trying to get to, where Black lives just matter now. Forget about whether he should have deserved it or not. That was just overly excessive. And so now we've got to start to think, okay, how now do we break that down to just, how do we just treat people normally? How do cops treat Black people normal? Because this has now become more ridiculous than ever. And now we're seeing it from 2 different spectrums, where the same city, a white guy brings his AR-15, whatever, What is it called? Whatever. AR-15, starts shooting up people, and the police are praising him. And then one guy, we have no idea what happened, and he gets shot 7 times. So now people are seeing it for what it is. And now we have both sides being shown to everybody, so that they can't argue and say, okay, well, that's just another police force. No, it's the exact same police force.
Yeah.
Andrew, you know what was sad for me too is, unfortunately, what happened with Kyle, they are decrying the call.
I think that was just Steffan that just kicked in.
Okay.
But you can go.
They're decrying the people who approached Kyle, with his gun as he shot into an empty crowd before he killed anybody, and they tried to take him down, who happened to be white. The ones that he murdered, they're saying that those guys aren't heroes.
Yeah.
Like that they shouldn't have done that they antagonized him and pushed him over the edge, and we shouldn't be saying that's the kind of people we need who are going to stand up to that kind of behavior. And it's wild to see how they've just chosen to make whatever it is that they want it to be, so that it's not a, well, they were wrong for doing that to the black guy, but the white guy was okay. Like he shouldn't have been bullied. He shouldn't have got hit with a skateboard. That's crazy to me.
Yeah.
And to add even to what you said, Jonesy, it's just even, I'm just gonna say something that Trevor Noah pointed out, the fact that it seems as though the black male gets treated worse than an animal. If a loose animal is out on the street, that's just crazy to me.
That's a whole nother topic for a whole nother show. I'm pretty sure there's decades upon hundreds of years, centuries of just how black people are treated in comparison to animals. Especially, anyway, I'm not even going to touch on that. I think, man, it's just disheartening and sad that we're talking about this again after George Floyd. I think, you know what, like what really actually saddens me, not just about the fact that he got shot, is that his kids were in the car, and there seemed to be no regard for the eyes of those young kids. Right? Nobody said, hey, maybe, okay, let's do this away from his kids. Let's try to, maintain some sort of decency for his kids. You would think that after everything that's gone on the last, hundreds of years in the United States, that there would be the ability for police officers to think about their actions and, say, okay, well, now we're very much so in the public eye in everything we do, and we need to repair relationships or start to begin to build relationships with the black community. And that starts from a young age. So how are these kids going to grow up thinking about the police? Obviously, they're going to grow up hating them, because all they know is that now they can never play any sort of game with their father unless he receives a miracle and he's able to walk again, right? Regardless of the relationship that they have with him, they know that he's not able to play with them like he did before. I think that, it's absolutely ridiculous just how people respond to these sort of things. Social media is a cesspool of ignorance, I think, at times. And people will just respond with the stupidest things. Even some of the posts that I've posted, I've gotten two sets of responses. People who say, oh, we see and we hear, and we're standing with you as a black person and praying for these things. And then you've got stupid people who respond, well, you should respond to authority and you should be respectful to authority. That's BS as far as I'm concerned, because police are to protect and serve. They're not supposed to be out here capping people, shooting people 7 times. That's completely excessive and unnecessary. Regardless if you tasered him or not, and he was strong enough to withstand the taser, 7 is way too many. And then to see the next day, you've got a 18-year-old who crossed state lines.
17,
my bad. He crossed state lines
with an illegal gun.
Right? Like, and nothing. He's able to walk by the police. I think that is absolutely, man, the United States is a huge problem, and I don't see I don't want to get political. I see where it comes from, but I just don't know, how do you repair that bridge? Mm-hmm. How do you do that?
Now, sorry. No, you can go, Chris.
No. Go ahead, Josie.
No, I was going to say we know where that comes from, but really we don't necessarily. And what I mean by that is, yes, we want to blame Trump, and Trump might have fueled a little bit of the fire more, but these killings started way before he got there.
Oh no!
They've been
It's
happening.
definitely before that.
Yeah, the wood's been there for a long time.
That's what I mean.
As much as we don't like
the
guy, we can't blame the political power. They have a whole ton of problems of craziness going on that needs to be dealt with.
When I say when I say the political side, I mean the history of the we talk about the NRA, who when these things happen, they don't want to stand up and sort of call out this sort of violence on the police side. The NRA won't say anything. They won't say, hey, this kid shouldn't have had that gun. There's this, I think, a part of modern racism modern. Is sort of rooted in how the NRA conducts itself, and is a big political booster to a certain party in the United States. Again, not to get political, but I don't want to take away from the topic that we're talking about.
I think there's a couple of things I'll say, and then we'll close this section off, because if a regular show we would be doing a two-parter, but we want to make sure to get this into the hands and get this to be a part of the your conversations out there on social media for you to be able to agree or disagree. A couple of things. One, anybody's allowed to have any opinion they want.
Yeah.
That's the gift of freedom of speech. That being said, there are consequences to said freedoms of speech. As you speak whatever you want, you can then not get upset when somebody disagrees with you. If there's something that you can learn about the seven of us and the three of us who are on the show right now, is we disagree all the time about a myriad of things, but we also, at the end of the day, come between understanding of who we are as individuals. We do not let what we disagree on destroy the unity that we have as brothers. And we need to get to a point where we can have disagreements on certain issues and still find a sense of unity. At the same time, a crime is a crime is a crime is a crime is a crime. And if we are willing to let down our moral fiber to justify the murder of somebody, I don't know how that works. Secondly, there are some people who would say, oh, these guys, man, I wish they would just talk more about NBA stuff and worship songs. You know, all they do is talk about race. Let me say this to you so you understand me. I would love if we never had to talk about race ever again.
Yeah.
Facts.
Everybody on this show would love if we never had to talk about race and police stuff ever again. Newsflash, sweetheart, it's not the world that we live in. Unfortunately, we live in a world where everything is tied into the very topic that we are talking about right now. And maybe if all of us start seeing it from that lens, we can actually start having more conversations that are about different things. Do you think every black person wants to talk about race? No, it is exhausting. It is tiring, and it is divisive because people start taking it personally when it has nothing to do with them.
Yeah.
Arrest the cops that shot and killed Breonna Taylor. Say her name, for goodness sakes. This has been the House of Common Show.